Other questions from the audience? Yes.
Just to touch upon editing again, really briefly, beyond relative experience and background for an editor, I'm sure that whether you've had one assigned by a publisher or you've gone and sought one yourself actively, for all four of you want to get yourself included on this panel, what are you looking for? What makes a good relationship with an editor? What are you looking for? What makes a good editor?
Personally, I've had one that was, and I don't want to start saying which book was which or anything, well, one that was fantastic and one that is very much in the I overshare everything sort of category, which I'm still dealing with. But for me, the best experience was someone who took my book and understood what I was trying to say and asked me questions about how I felt certain things should be changed. Grammar, spelling, if I made mistakes, by all means, change them, change it all. I don't care. I want it to be pristine in that regard. When it comes to changing how scenes flow and changing how characters react and everything, I appreciate the suggestions rather than just striking everything out with a red pen and putting their own ideas on top. Like, just tell me why you think this doesn't work, and we'll work together to change it so that I feel that I'm not losing my voice in my own manuscript.
Well, I edit for Dark Dragon, and I've also done a lot of freelance editing too. In terms of the content editing, I think it's really important for the editor to help the writer write to the best of their ability and to find their voice and bring it forward. It's so important. With one of my authors with Dark Dragon, he was so excited. He sent off a galley, an uncorrected galley to Jack White. I don't know if anybody recognizes his name. He's an international best-selling author here in Canada for his Camelot series and a whole bunch of other books. You go in the bookstores, you'll see his books there. And Jack came back with a whole bunch of edits for him. And so my author came back to me and said, this is what Jack suggested. And I read them, and I go, okay, some of these are somewhat valid, but you know what? This is Jack's voice, not your voice. And you need someone to be able to bring that voice, to be able to say, look, I have a suggestion, this really doesn't work, this is why, or is this what you're trying to get across, and make you really think about what you're saying, to really test what your characters are actually being and how they really are. It's so important, especially with the content editing in that regards, and to be able to take the criticism, and also for the editor to go, you know what, okay, you want it like that, I disagree with this, these are my reasons why, but because you feel strongly about it, let's find a happy medium in between and work through that. So that's really important. I'm his editor. I edited both Detective B and The Worlds Apart, so yeah, he's in this hot seat there.
No, I agree totally, and I think we worked out a good report.
Yeah.
We did.
No oversharing.
Yeah. What I would say, you want an editor who is strong where you are weak. And we all have areas in our writing where we shine. And if we're honest and objective about it, we know where we are good. And if we're very honest and objective about it, or we've just had it clubbed over our head our entire lives, we know where we are bad. And one of the things that is really advantageous is if you can get an editor who is very good where you are very bad. I myself happen to be dyslexic, extremely. I'm sure that I gave you some real headaches with that, despite the fact that I spell check and correct and have proofreaders before I ever send to a publisher. But still stuff leaks through. Karen happens to be really good with spelling. And she's really good with punctuation, and she's pulled me up by pointing out repeatedly. It only takes a mild clubbing over the head where I fall down. And that's one of the greatest things you can have, because you don't need the help where you're strong. You need it where you're weak. And this is one of the great things about a small press too, because you'll tailor to that. And yeah, that's my contribution to that.
I'm in agreement with everyone. I think editing is very much a collaboration, and I think it's really important that you work, obviously you don't always get the decision of which editor you work for, but editing works best when you're both coming from a place of trust. Now, I've seen both sides of it. I'm a professional editor. I'm also a writer. I do work with an editor on my online YA series. Just because it's self-published doesn't mean that I don't have an editor, because everybody needs an editor, because you do not see things in your own work because you're too close to it. That said, it's okay to tell your editor how you like to work. I told my editor, I'm like, I don't need to be mollycoddled. You don't need to, write nice things in the margins before you give me a note. Just, if you see a problem, call it out. I really love the editorial process. I really love when my editor catches things that I missed. Because I'm like, yes! That's not going online, and that the readers are going to catch it later. So I think, if your relationship with your editors, you're constantly at each other's throats,
Yeah,
that's not a good relationship. The work is going to suffer. And like our other panelists said, a good editor is an editor who will flag something, and then if you strongly disagree, that editor will have a phone conversation with you or an email conversation with you about that, and you will find a compromise that both yourself, the editor, and your publishing house, if you're with a publishing house, are happy with.
Yeah.
You should never let your editor take over your book, like rewrite entire paragraphs. A good editor
We'll never write anything.
A good editor will be
Suggestions.
extremely careful, even if they're subbing in a word or a couple words here and there, that they are maintaining your voice. And they will encourage you, if you do not agree with those subbed in words when you get the edit back, that you put your own words in their place. So yes, editing is very much a relationship, and not every editor, we've all worked with poor ones and we've all worked with really good ones. But if you're in a position where you're working with an editor and you guys are really clicking, try to hang on to them, especially if it's an independent editor you're hiring to polish up your work beforehand. Try to hang on with them, because as you will grow together.
Yeah.
For Stephen's more spiritually centric work, please visit the Pagan Writers Press Sabbath Series anthologies. And for a tale of love between a passionate pagan couple, visit Hot Shots and his work, 3 Parts Love.